Well, hey folks, it's your old pal, King Krampus, and welcome back to day 5 of 31 Days of Halloween with your pal, King Krampus. Today's film, we're going to be discussing The Ninth Gate by right-wing America's favorite director, Roman Polanski, and starring Johnny Depp and Frank Langella. This movie is easily in my top 10 favorite films of all time. It might even be a top 5. I mean, it's probably my favorite Johnny Depp movie. It's easily my favorite movie about Satanism and satanic cults. It has a very strong subtext of bibliophilia, the love of books and appreciation of literature. And all around, it's just a very excellent movie. In it, Johnny Depp plays an unscrupulous book appraiser who works for the rich and famous of New York, the East Coast, Europe. Jet sets around, travels around, appraises, old valuable antique books for people, cuts deals to try to screw them over so he can get himself his hands on a copy of some valuable tome. And he gets hired by Frank Langella's character, Balkan, to verify the authenticity of a cult book, of which there's only 3 surviving copies, and the whole plot just kind of slides off from there. The actual Satanists and cultists in the movie are portrayed very realistically, and that there's really not any actual supernatural stuff they're accomplishing. They're not working magic or anything like that. They're largely just a bunch of rich orgy enthusiasts playing pretend, and have been doing so for centuries. However, there are supernatural elements to the movie that run kind of subtly, especially the first time you're watching it. It's one of those movies that does bear repeat viewing, because you will pick things up on further views, much like Johnny Depp's character, Corso, accumulating the knowledge and imagery needed for him to himself unlock the ninth gate at the end of the movie. But before we get any further onto any of that kind of stuff, let's check it out. Wonderfully slow-paced compared to modern movies. You don't get a lot of films made like this anymore that really kind of allow you to breathe into the scene and take in small details, because it's not all super flashy and cut to pieces by the editing department to create a frantic energy that's not necessary for this plot. This is supposed to be a slow burn. I do have to admit, Roman Polanski does have an eye for pretty ladies. There's at least 2 of them in this movie. Alright, so there you go. Now, this is a Roman Polanski film, and he's obviously a controversial figure. He was the husband of the Tate woman who was killed by the Manson family famously in the 60s, and had to flee to France and take asylum there after he quite infamously banged a teenage girl, daughter of one of his friends, from the story as I recall it. She didn't want to press charges, and it was like many years later that, you know, this kind of came out and such, but and a lot of people always were trying to like excuse the action because, well, he wasn't in a good mind space because of what happened to his wife and all that, yada yada yada, which I guess certainly having something like that happen to you or to someone that you love that are adjacent to in such a high profile murder case, you know, undoubtedly does do something to you, but I don't really know if that includes fucking a 14-year-old girl in the ass in a hot tub. Maybe it's just me. To each their own, they say. But in spite of all that, or possibly because of that, there's some subtle textures to the Ninth Gate that you just couldn't really have gotten from anywhere else. And for whatever reason, good or ill, as I've said, it's easily one of my favorite movies of all time. I remember seeing it in the Dolby Movie Theater in Austin, Texas, off the UT campus back when it came out in the late 90s, or was it around 2000? Somewhere around there, turn of the millennium. I believe it was just prior to it, though. You know, back when Johnny Depp still actually had indie cred, you know, before Pirates of the Caribbean and his long chain of ill-considered would-be franchise movies that followed in its wake. And some just really excellent Frank Langella villainy going on in this movie that's worth watching, too. So, if you have reservations about it because of the satanic content, well, don't worry. It's not real. It's just a movie. And, you know, the sexiness stuff is fairly dialed back. It's not like some 80s movie with, like, obnoxiously long, awkward lovemaking scenes in it or anything. But, you know, it is filmed in France and full of French things, so it is sexy at times. And as I said, it really conveys this, the importance and love of books, you know, bibliophilia, which is something the world needs more of. More reminders. It can't just all be Stephen King blowing his own horn about how great it is to be a writer. It's quirky, makes you think. It doesn't overly explain itself. You know, it is up to you to kind of figure out what you think the ending means and all that kind of stuff, which is good. A little intentional subjectivity so that the audience actually has something to gnaw on is not a terrible way to end a movie, especially if it's not some stupid cliffhanger that's supposed to lead on to The Ninth Gate 2, Ascension, or whatever the hell. So yeah, I guess that's about it for this day of 31 Days of Halloween with your pal King Krampus. Be sure to tune in tomorrow when we go over another movie. Hit like and subscribe and leave comments in the meantime. Be sure to hype the video since that's now a thing. We love hype. Hype is great. And until next time,
stay caffeinated. Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati, the role-playing game. America's #1 lesbian college witch retro 50s Hollywood occult conspiracy RPG.